Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. There. Hey, welcome. Today is June 20th, 2022. This is, we are in Rowan County, North Carolina. We're having our second meeting of June here in the County Commission chambers, and we are so honored that you are here with us today. Usually when we see a big crowd, it's one of two things. It's a time for celebration or we are in big trouble for some reason. And I got a feeling that today is a good day. And so we are glad that you're here with us. And we hope that you find your time with us here today profitable. So it is something that this board and boards all across America do at the beginning of meetings. We do a couple of things. We have what's called a solemnizing prayer. And that's a technical term, and it's something, a prayer that we have at the beginning of the meetings. It is not for you, it is for the commissioners. What we do, we take very seriously, and we ask for wisdom as we try to make decisions that are in the best interest of everybody of Rowan County. We have a chaplain that'll do that for us, Charles Taylor, if he'll come up. Then we'll also have a Pledge of Allegiance after that. So commissioners, if you'll join me, we'll get started.
Lord, we thank you for the privilege to be here tonight and come to you in behalf of our county commissioners, dear Lord. We thank you for the excellent work they do and pray you give them the wisdom they need, dear Lord. Pray you guide and lead this meeting tonight, Lord Jesus. Thank you for the preparation they've made for this meeting, dear Lord. Pray you guide us and lead us tonight and guide and lead them, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chaplain Taylor, as always, for being with us. So additions and deletions to the agenda. I have one addition to add, and that's a short closed session at the end of the meeting, which may be in the morning by the time we're done. We'll add that as item 13A, a closed session. Also, item number 5 is a public hearing regarding Harold Street road closure. I'd like to move that up to item 3A. And then also item number 8, Dragon Boat Festival, if we could move that to item 3B. Item number 10, we will strike. That is being deleted from the agenda tonight. So item number 5 goes to 3A, item number 8, 3B. We strike item number 10. We're adding 13A, a closed session. Any questions? All right, do we have a motion to accept the new agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. The minutes for June 6 have been provided for us. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as provided?
So moved.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Our consent agenda, items A through AF, then been provided. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now we get to some of the fun stuff. We'd like to have a special recognition tonight. We seem to be doing this more and more, and that's a good thing. If you haven't been living under a rock recently, you've learned that our South Rowan men's baseball team came back to Rowan County with a big old trophy. And so we're super proud of that, proud of the coaches, proud of the administration, proud certainly of the team. We wanted to spend some time with them tonight. Commissioners, if you'll join me out front, I got one of these Mr. Microphones. They say it'll work. So why don't we come out front and Carolyn go? Okay. By the way, I did want to mention we have a celebrity with us here tonight, Meredith Smith. She is mayor of Landis, and we are so glad that you're here with us tonight. If y'all could give her a warm Rowan County welcome. Thank you. From the look on her face, I'm in trouble, but I'm used to that, so that's okay. Thank you for being here tonight. So Coach Thad, if you could join us, come on up here. And also Principal, if you'd come up and join us first. We've got this proclamation that we're going to read, and then we're going to present to you guys. And so we'll read that now. Proclamation honoring the 22 South Rowan High School varsity baseball team. Well, and so football's next, right? So no pressure, guys. Whereas the South Rowan High School varsity baseball team under head coach Thad Chrisman and assistant coaches Austin Chrisman, Brandon White, Grayson Miller, and Parker Hubbard is hereby recognized and honored for their 2022 victorious baseball season. And whereas by their extraordinary efforts, the following members of this dynamic and talented team is to be congratulated for the remarkable and triumphant season. Coleman Overcash, Cole Thomas, Kane Kepley, Finch McMillan, Gabe Dial, Nathan Chrisman, Brooks Hubbard, Ty Hubbard, Hayden LaFew, JD James, Colton Fisher, Carson Craneshaw, Aaron Jones, Chandler Odie, Logan Ballard, Jacob Ritchie, Brett Morris, Connor Coy, and Hunter Alexander. And whereas due to the hard work, dedication, and their exceptional chemistry, this outstanding group of Raiders made school history by claiming the 3A state championship title on June 4th, 2022, the first ever team state championship earned by South Rowan High School's 61-year history. And whereas the individual contributions from each team member was crucial to the successful season, and the tremendous commitment and excellent performance of these young Rowan County men, along with their coaching staff, have proven to be a source of admiration and inspiration to the citizens of Rowan County. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Rowan County Board of Commissioners does hereby honor and congratulate the South Rowan High School 2022 varsity baseball team and coaching staff for their incredible achievements and commends them for the display of sportsmanship and leadership as they represented Rowan County. This, the 20th day of June, 2022. And Coach, we'd like to present this to you. Coach, do you have your assistant coaches with you here today? Do you have some?
I do have one.
All right, well, bring him on up. Come on up and introduce him. And then I want to make sure we give some credit to the other coaches. So we got Thad Grayson Miller, Brandon White, Austin Chrisman, and Parker Hubbard. So these are the coaches of your 3A state championship Raiders, if you'll give them a hand. So Coach has been coaching here since 2001. It's about time. Yeah. Evidently your contract was up, and so you're a one-year deal, you're year by year. Okay, I understand that. I'm married. Our board clerk always does such a good job of putting these together for us and getting information. And she asked for some information from Coach, and Coach said there was some really interesting things about this team. And this is a pretty amazing statistic. This team had a team GPA of 3.9. who drug y'all down to 3.9? Out right away, yeah. I kind of kid all the time, and I tell folks that I convinced my parents in college that my college actually graded on a 2.0 level, and my parents were thrilled because I had a 2.1, and they thought, "Wow, did you get extra credit?" And it wasn't a 2.1; it was a 1.9. Some really good information. I want to read off some of these names. All of the seniors will be continuing on into college. And I tell you that that is a great statistic to have, Coach, that they're great players, they're great students. I want to hear from you in a minute about the kids themselves, but having that GPA. But let me tell you about where these kids are moving on to. And as I call your name, how about standing up? Nathan Chrisman. Nathan will be attending East Carolina University. Let's give Nathan a round of applause. Kane will be attending Liberty University. Oh, he's got his LU shirt on already. All right. My kids went to LU, and they got a great program there. So congratulations. Good luck to you. Ty Hubbard. Is Ty here? Ty's going to Catawba College. Got a great program there. Finch McMillan. Finch is going to Hampton-Sydney College. Congratulations. Audie, I'm sorry, man. Chandler Audie, Catawba Valley Community College. Congratulations, Chandler. James. Evidently, they're rooming together. Also going to Catawba Valley Community College. Congratulations. He says they are not rooming together. So, yeah, that's good. Those are the ones that are home. All right. Well, how about you mentioning, because I don't have that info.
That's okay.
All right, good.
Okay, those were the six that are continuing their baseball career. There are three others that are going to college. If they could all stand, Jacob Ritchie going to Appalachian State. Carson Cranshaw is going to UNC Wilmington. And Colton Fisher is going to the Atlantic Ocean, right? Jacksonville University. He's studying marine biology type thing. Very smart.
Marine biologist. Well, you'll need to watch a Seinfeld episode. Is anyone here a marine biologist? Seriously, look it up. It's hilarious. So, Coach, would you just talk to us about your season? Tell us about the beginning of the season, kind of what you thought you had. Were you surprised? Is this what you expected? And just give us some highlights of the year. Tell us about your record, maybe your tournament, and then just anything else you want to talk about. Okay.
Well, it was a fantastic year. First of all, I have to at least thank our administration, Dr. Amanda Macon, who has taken another position. Welcome, Jordan Baker, going to be a new principal. But we have to thank our administration that we have. The parents that we had was a tremendous support. The South Lorraine community was phenomenal. But as we journeyed through the season, the support we got from the entire county was really remarkable and heartwarming. Everybody supported us. We got well wishes from all parts of the county, which was phenomenal to see. As regarding to the kids, I'm glad you mentioned their team GPA. I'm very proud of that. They're very vocal in the community. They're very good with outreach programs and volunteerism and those types of things. So just really good kids, not just good baseball players. Great representation of our county. Our season was pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and say that I thought we were going to be pretty good. But in order to make a run and go as far as we did, you've got to be fortunate, but you've got to make some things happen. And it's just a special year. But we have a good group of kids. We were 30-6. 30 wins is a school record for wins. I think that's only been done twice in the county history in baseball. And we won the conference, conference champions. We won our conference tournament. We were #1 seed in the West. I think the kids worked very hard to earn that. And then we were lucky to play in front of some great crowds at South Rowan High School that brought us tremendous support. And we played some good baseball there throughout the playoffs. And knowing that we went to Ting Park and outside of Raleigh to play up in Hollis Springs, we had a huge crowd in Rowan County. And it was a great representation, tremendous support. I couldn't be happier. And I'm proud of the coaches that you mentioned. They were phenomenal. I have a great group of young, talented coaches that love kids. They communicate well with kids. They know baseball, and they're great role models. So it was a phenomenal year.
So I was following it when you were in the championship game. I think you lost the first game. Didn't you lose the first game? What was the score of that?
We lost 4-3.
But then, and I didn't know, but you played 2 games on Saturday, right? And so I didn't get to see, and I didn't see if you won or lost the first game on Saturday, but then I started getting messages on my phone that you guys had won. So you came back and won 2 in a row, which is hard, isn't it?
We wouldn't have it any other way, right, guys? They seem to put us through the ringer as fans all year, but they like to play close games. They relish that, and I think they're very confident. We won our second game 4-2, and the momentum was on our side. But they play really well, and it's a reflection on those kids how resilient they are and how they bounce back from anything, and they're very confident, which I think shows their true blood and representation in the heart of Rowan County.
Yeah, it really does. Thanks for saying that. I think whether they're adults or young men like yourself, seeing you come back against adversity says a lot about you, and it says something about your future. That's really great, seeing that you have that gumption to really fight hard and come back. So we're super proud of you. Hey, Carolyn, so what we're going to do is we've got this that is here. Let's, April, have you gotten the picture? Oh, there you are. Sorry, I'm always looking for her in the back. Have you got the pictures you needed with this group? Okay. So what we'll do,
I recognize there are a couple of juniors here in attendance that we want to recognize. Cole Thomas and Gabe Dowell. They're with us here. We wish all of our players couldn't be here. Gabe, Cole, stand up. Didn't want to leave those guys out. And there are there are some younger guys that are actually playing a game tonight. So they couldn't make it with us, but we definitely couldn't have done it without them either.
All right, so what we'll do is I've got this list here, and I'm gonna somewhere, I'll start reading this list. So if you guys will come up one at a time, and our commissioner down here on the end will greet you, and just come down the line, and then Commissioner Pierce will give you your kind of take-home resolution that we have for you. You'll be able to keep that, okay? All right, we ready to go? Then we'll take a group picture. So we'll figure that out. So as you come up, just kind of fan out along the sides, and then we'll have April and Ben figure out how we want to do that. So first on my list is Coleman Overcash. He's playing ball. You'll take his to him. Okay, Cole Thomas. Cole, welcome. And feel free to clap. Kane Kepley. All right, Finch McMillan. Congratulations, Finch. Gabe Dial. Thanks, Gabe. Nathan Chrisman.
Brooks is not here. No.
Okay. Congratulations, man. Ty Hubbard. Congratulations, man. JD James. Congratulations, man. Colton Fisher. Congratulations. Carson Cranshaw. Hey, congratulations. Chandler Audie. Congratulations, man. Yeah. And Jacob Ritchie. All right. Jacob's carrying the hardware. Nice, nice. All right, if you guys then will come on back up here, and those of us that are short, which is, yeah. So if y'all could do a, and we would offer to kneel, but then we couldn't get back up. So April, Ben, if you guys will arrange, y'all come on in, come in front of us, and you're probably going to have to kneel. All right, is that okay?
All right, 3.
Are we good?
Thank you very much.
They're right on the video camera. Cleaned out half time. She should have announced the thing we recorded. Dollar General. But I was here for it.
Tell you, it's so good to have events like this. You know, you can pick the bad news out of the day, but we sure have our share of good news here in Rowan County, and to be able to celebrate with our kids who are good kids, good athletes, and good students is we're so blessed in Rowan County to have that. All right, item number 3, public comment. I've only got, let me see here. I've got Ted Fuller, and I don't know if Ted still wants to speak. Is Ted here? Yeah, we pulled the item. Do you still want to? Okay, come on up, Ted. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. What is the status of that number 10?
We have pulled it from the agenda.
To be delayed until a later time?
We are working on how we are going to respond to that. We were not prepared to either pass it or not pass it tonight. So we requested that Terramore pull it from the agenda and they agreed.
Okay. I hope you will decide not to allow them to do that. It is already an extremely busy road, one of the busiest in the county. I saw what kind of bottleneck it created right over here near Landmark Church. People turning in and out of that intersection, people turning in and out of the driveway to that Dollar General, it creates a backup. People are stuck in the intersection and the light is red. Briggs Road is a constantly busy road. If you would sit in a car one afternoon or one morning and watch and count the number of cars and dump trucks and things coming through there, it's the only direct route between 150 and 70. And that includes Beringer Road. So it is a very very busy road. I'm concerned that it will, in fact, I feel sure it will eventually lead to the changing of the intersection, modification of the intersection, adding of a stoplight, widening of the road, which will all come out of our tax money. When they built that roundabout, I think that was $500,000. This is probably will go higher than that. We're headed into a recession, most likely. It's not going to get any better. I don't think anybody out there that I've talked to wants that burden to have to deal with that every day. I don't think Dollar General cares about us. They'll plant these things wherever they want to. They don't care about us. They only care about themselves. That's clear to me. And I don't mind having a Dollar General, but that's the wrong place to put it. I hope you will shoot it down, knock it out, and in some way or another, put reins on them so that they can't come into our county, in our neighborhoods, and put these things where we don't want them. That's what I think, and that's what a lot of other people think too. They couldn't come to the meeting. I'm here speaking for them. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
Corinne Molden. Hey, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
It's good to see you all this evening.
Good to see you.
I'm here to ask for money and I don't know the process about this. I'm just finding out some things that we were supposed to have maybe give you fill out a form or something like that. But I'm here on behalf of a group for Winterfest in Spencer. Some of you may have come to that last year. It's a new event that we had last year. It was our first annual, and it takes place in Spencer on Friday, December 2nd, 3rd, 9th, and 10th. I'm going to talk fast because I got a lot of things to say, and I know I only have 3 minutes. It began as an idea tossed around at one of our Spencer aldermen's homes with a few of his friends, and the question was, what type of event could we bring to Spencer to invite people to our town and our county to show how great a place Rowan County and Spencer is, and the rest is history. We ended up with Winterfest. A German Christmas market was born, and I do have our sponsorship booklets that I would like to pass out to you guys. So I'll leave these up here. I don't know how they get distributed.
Give it to
Okay.
Carolyn when you leave.
And we would like for you to consider looking in there. There's our sponsorship opportunities are in there, and also our budget is in there. This is a fully nonprofit event that we have. One of the reasons that we wanted to have it in December, it's right across the street from the North Carolina Transportation Museum. We picked 2 weekends that are consistent with Polar Express. So we felt like we could offer something to the community other than Polar Express. That's a wonderful event. A lot of people can't afford to go to it. Everything at our event, unless you buy food, drinks, or the craft, we have 22 craft vendors already signed up for this year, is free. We have a children's tent where all the children's activities are free. They make things like alpine hats, gingerbread houses, decorate a Christmas sweater, decorate a cookie. We have a main stage band stand that we have all kinds of local talent, 2 of our dance people from the town, Salisbury Dance Academy and To the Point Dance Academy are 2 of our dance groups that come. We do have a very good band, Divided by 4. Some of you know who they are. They perform for us as well. The Salisbury Symphony Quintet, The Salisbury Choral Society will be performing as well this year. We do have one band from out of town. It's a mountaintop polka band, German band, to bring that German feel. And all of that is free. You don't have to pay to see any of these events. And we have professional tinning this year. We hired a professional power person because last year we really learned a lot about what not to do. So we decided to go out and make sure that we could get professional people to come in and provide these things for us. We don't charge admission. And this year, our big thing is we are getting a skating rink, and that will also be free. Anybody that wants to skate, you have the opportunity to get skates from us, sizes toddlers all the way to 13 for adults. And all you have to do is reserve a time and you can skate for free. So we feel like because we are bringing a free event to our community, that we feel like everyone deserves to have that holiday hallmark event in their life, and they shouldn't have to pay a fortune for it. We love our neighbors across the street, the Polar Express, and feel like that's an awesome thing. But we also thought bringing this dispenser would elevate our little town. It also elevates our county. And so we're asking you to take a look at our sponsorship books and see where you might fit us in with maybe a little bit of money from the budget to support our event this year. Thank you for your time. My phone number and email are in there. If anybody has any questions, you certainly call me or email me, and I'll be glad to talk with any of you in detail about this event if you so desire.
Hey, what are the dates again?
The dates are December 2nd and 3rd. That's a Friday and Saturday, and the next Friday and Saturday, 9th and 10th.
All right, thanks for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much for your time this evening.
Yeah, I hope everyone will go out and to that event. I went last year and it really was terrific, and I know it's just going to get better and better. Thank you. All right, so let's see, item 3. Oh, okay, you're here already. Good. Whenever you're ready.
Going to need a little help from April to make it a little. Thank
There we
you.
go.
Thank you. Well. There we go. Good evening. Thank you for moving this agenda item up in the agenda. We'll try to be quick with the staff presentation and the hearing, but this is a public hearing for a road closure request submitted on behalf of Duke Energy. The Board of Commissioners adopted its resolution of intent to close this unopened right-of-way known as Harold Street at its May 16th, 2022 meeting. Duke Energy owns parcel 650.2016, and it's this parcel here. The adjoining properties are zone RA. To the north of this site is the Buck Power Plant, and that is zoned industrial. And Duke Energy owns this parcel, and it's adjacent to this unopened 60-foot right-of-way. The right-of-way is not currently maintained by DOT, and it is not open. The right-of-way was created in 1955 by virtue of this plat, recorded in Plat Book 9995, page 821. This map is actually oriented in a way which north runs left to right, so it may look a little bit different than what we just saw. But these are the tracts or the parcels, excuse me, these are the lots that Duke owns. It's about 10 acres. We just saw this. Here's the right-of-way that they have petitioned to close. The current survey is rectified. It's in a north orientation here, but this is the same representation as we just looked at from the previous plat. You see the unopened right-of-way that's petitioned to be closed in the yellow area. Assuming that all goes well with the public hearing tonight, this is what the track would look like once it's finished. This right of way will no longer be there, and Duke will have one contiguous or complete parcel. So from a procedural standpoint, the commission adopted the resolution of intent on May 16th. Staff posted signs on June 2nd, advising the property owners that adjoin the property that we would have this hearing tonight. Notice was sent to these adjoining owners on June 2nd by the applicant. They also provided that the public hearing was advertised in the Salisbury Post on these 3 dates as required by statute. And as staff, we would advise you to conduct the public hearing, allow for the public comments as well as the applicant comment. And once that's completed, I'll come back and I'll guide you through the remaining 2 items that you need to consider before acting on this request. Any questions?
All right, thanks. All right, so the next thing we'll do is we'll open the floor for a public comment on a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak during this public hearing? You? Okay.
I'm here for the applicant for Duke
Okay,
Energy.
yeah.
Duke would like the right of way to be closed. It was part of the old Dukeville development. So they were the plat petitioners back in 1955 that put that plat on record. The street was never opened, as is obvious now. Duke would like to make sure it doesn't become open, so this can serve as an appropriate buffer to the steam plant. They don't want anybody to come in later and say, we need to put this street in and it interfere with public safety.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. If you give your name and address for the record.
Oh, my name's Thomas Saxey. I live at 745 Dukeville Road, which is the property that's adjacent to what's left of Harold Street after the proposed road closure. And I guess I didn't see anything in the emailing about, or the message that you guys sent out about what's to become of the balance of what remains of the road. So that's what I'd like to know.
Okay, we can find that out from.
So as part of this process, that particular portion would remain open. It would be available for Mr. Saxey as well as the adjoining property owner to the south to continue to use. There's no action that's proposed to close it at this point.
Did you hear that?
And is they're going to leave that open, so if you like.
Yes.
Effectively, yeah.
Okay.
So if Mr. Saxey wanted that portion of the road closed, statutorily, the property to the north and the property to the south would gain that in fee simple ownership, but they would go through a similar process to what we've done here tonight. So just to be clear, the board could not take that action to close that because we haven't been through those public notice requirements. Would you? I think we would agree to that, yeah. It's a good question, though.
All right, anyone else in public comment? All right, hearing none, we'll close public comment. And Ed, I know you got a couple things for us.
Yeah, you're going to need to make a couple different motions. So what happens here is the board formally accepts the resolution to accept the right of way. There's a copy of that in your packet, but what the board would do is say that we agree to accept as the county commission this unopened portion of the street. Once you accept that, the next action you would take is 2 findings that closing the right of way is not contrary to the public interest and that no individual owning property in the vicinity of Harold Street is deprived means of ingress or egress. And then you would say that that's your closure order. So going back, the first item you would do, first action you would take is adopting the resolution to accept the right of way.
All right, so I make a motion that we adopt the resolution accepting the unopened portion of Harold Street.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the order closing the street. And upon a finding that the closing the road is not, first of all, contrary to the public interest or the property rights of any individual. And second, that no individual owning property in the vicinity of said portion of Harold Street or in the subdivision in which they are located will be deprived of reasonable means of egress and ingress to his property by the closing of said portion of Harold Street. I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'd also like to make a motion that you authorize me as the chairman to sign an order closing the requested portion of Harold Street and to be filed with the Register of Deeds. Have a second? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Will that do it? Will that do it? Okay. All right, we're done with that. All right, the next one is, let's see, public hearing for that noisy Dragon Boat Festival.
Over my house.
The cannon could go down there, wouldn't
So we got the request for the permit to exceed 0122 for the 8th Annual Dragon Boat Festival. This festival will take place on July 23rd at the Shrine Club at 6480 Long Ferry Road on High Rock Lake. They anticipate approximately 3,000 people will show up at this event. This is the 8th time they've had this event here, and with all permit to exceed, there's 10 specific standards that are required to take a look at when evaluating an application. So the first one is the timeliness of the application. We received this application on May 24th, which is well in advance of today's consideration. The nature of the requested activity. This is a lakeside festival with boat races, games, foods, and vendors. Previous experience with the applicant. This is the 8th Annual Dragon Boat Festival. And the only issues we ever had was with some parking issues, but that was all the way back in 15, and they've added a satellite parking lot. And since then, there's been no issues with traffic. The timing of the event, this will be on Saturday, July 23rd from 8 to 4. The other activities in the vicinity, there are none to staff knowledge. The frequency of the event, this is an annual event. The cultural and social benefits of the event, there's approximately 3,000 estimated people to be there with hopes of raising money for the Rowan Chamber's small business programs. The effects of the activity on residential properties. You can see the close residential properties in this area, and they've all received notice as in notice 10. They've all been informed of this hearing. And then the final thing is the tenant, is that adjoining property owners in the surrounding locations are notified within at least 72 hours, and notification was sent out on the 9th in both letters and a sign posted on the site. If you have any questions, both me and the applicant are here. I believe Elaine Spalding would like to give a little presentation about the Dragon Boat Festival.
Do we have to vote to allow her to do this?
You don't have to let her.
Okay, all right, Elaine. Thanks for coming, Elaine.
Thank you. I appreciate being here in front of our county commission, and just thank you for everything you're doing to help our community. This is on High Rock Lake, North Carolina's second largest lake. I still run into citizens that don't realize that. And it's a team building exercise. When we first started this event, we had 16 teams. The highest number of teams we had was in 2019 with 29 teams. This year, we have 32 teams already registered. So please come out and join us. It's a fun day on the lake, Saturday, July 23rd. I have flyers for you.
Thank you, Elaine. All right, we're going to have we're going to open the floor for public comment. Do we have anyone who would like to say anything regarding this? Probably not. It's a great event. All right, we'll close the floor. Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve PE 01-22?
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, hope everyone will go to this event. It really is, and there's thousands of people out there. If you're claustrophobic, don't come. It is a great event. It is full of entertainment. You're likely to see some of your favorite executives dumped out of a boat. It's high drama. It's very exciting. There's music, there's food, there's camaraderie. People are walking around all day and you see folks you hadn't seen in a long time. So please come out and do that. It's very exciting. Thank you, Elaine, for being here.
I've got some flyers for the audience members.
Yeah.
Can we start a fund to see that Steve Fisher gets dumped out of a boat?
Yes, sir. Right away.
All right, item number 4, Shane. Shane, there you are. Public hearing for ZO4-22 Red Rock Development. Welcome.
Good evening. So to continue our theme on Long Ferry Road and the activities going on, Red Rock Development LLC has petitioned for a rezoning of land owned by the Carlton family, generally along the 17 to 2300 block of Long Ferry Road. And the parcels are hidden right here, but 603, 045, 112 through 114, 116, and 118. That'll make a little bit more sense when we look at the screen. Those tracts are outlined in red here, and per GIS, that totals about 384 acres. And you may see some different acreages references in different materials, but per GIS, that's the acreage total. And this yellow color represents the RA district. The crosshatch is an agricultural overlay. So you see that on the northern and southern sides here on the western front, and that totals a little over 100 acres of that has the ag overlay. Here's 85 Long Ferry Road, and the requested rezoning would be CBI CD for a conditional district, which we'll look at the site plan here shortly. In the 21 photo, you see the predominant coverage of the site is wooded areas. There is some farming that occurs within the site. You see a Duke Energy transmission line through the property, and also Town Creek and Crane Creek back here, and a little glimpse of one of the coves in High Rock Lake. So this is the overall site plan here, and per the applicant, this is termed a 6-lot speculative industrial development, and they're targeting the manufacturing sector, wholesale trade, and transportation. And most likely this will start out as shell buildings, but may not. But if they do, then of course the typical approach with that is an upfit later once a tenant is determined. But that's what the material provided identifies there. A little bit of statistics on those. There are 6 lots, 6 structures. They have letters A through F. This is the approximate square footage in the total of 2.66 million. It would occur over 3 phases. These dates may change a bit, but the last submittal, it did provide a closeout of 2025 for the anticipated completion. Here's a few little highlights that's identified in that plan material. It will have concrete tilt panel walls. The landscaped area is referenced that it will be in a manner that it exceeds the zoning ordinance. Any lighting would be a 35-foot max pole and have no more than a half of a foot candle at the property line. In terms of signage, it'd either be on the building or ground mounted. So let's take a tour at the 6 structures and the associated parcels. This is the lone building on the north side of Long Ferry. Building A It has a single drive connection for employee parking, a separate access for truck parking areas. You see, this does not join, and one of the recommendations that we would encourage if the board did approve the request is have a little connection here for fire access. It's a short run. They don't want mixing of those vehicles for several reasons, but it provides a nice opportunity to have 2 points of access for our emergency team. And I think the applicant here will address a nuance that they would like incorporated within the proposed condition language, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. On each of these lots, you'll see a series of stormwater ponds that are proposed. It's not in the phase 2 stormwater area that's required, but per the engineer design, it will have these ponds managed by the owner to control stormwater runoff. Also has proposed street trees here, some within the parking lot areas. A 20-foot observed right-of-way in addition to the 60-foot recognized. So that would total 100 feet where they have control of both sides of the road. Further down, obviously, we're only dealing with 80 feet because that's only on the south side of Long Ferry Road. Do want to point out there's 2 more of these access points that I want to make reference to for a ease of fire access to improve this location here with grass, paver, gravel, or something that's more, doesn't have to be a hard surface. We do have one residence that's adjacent here. The Maldonado residence is located right approximately where my cursor is. Applicant is proposing a type A buffer, which is a 20-foot reserved green strip and some evergreens here. Screening is only required if the home or accessory structures within 200 feet of the operational limits, and that may not occur here, but they're offering that up as in addition to the ordinance allowance. I'll try to go through this quickly, but there's a lot of pieces I'd like to touch on. So directly on the opposite side of the road, this is the access for Building B. It's one access point that will also serve Building C, which we'll talk about next. But this, and I should back up, 5 of the 6 lots will have frontage on Long Ferry and access. This one for Building C is a 10-acre lot, which doesn't require frontage on a public road, but will be served by a private easement built to similar to DOT standards from the cross-section information listed. So it's a 60-foot access easement. It would be, the cross-section says 44 feet. This is 45, but that'd be the paved surface width. And connecting these 2 locations here is the closest point of connection. And again, we'll talk more about the details in that condition, and you'll see this adjacent building in a slide coming up soon. So continuing south is access to Building C. And over here is the Moby Lodge property. Chewy's on down. That's where the sewer connection comes in. You have an existing 16-inch gravity sewer that will be extended with a 2-inch pressure line and a pump station there to serve the whole facility. And within that line, you'll also have a fire suppression line for non-potable water. And then up on Long Ferry Road, you've got the existing northeast potable water line. So with that, that would serve as the water for the facility, but the sewer and the fire access or fire line for suppression purposes only will serve the facility through that location there.
Okay, Will, there's a total of what, 5, 6 buildings?
6.
Buildings. Which way will the sewer flow from these buildings? I assume they'll all be attached.
I don't know specifically. This is the location here where it would enter the site, and then it would extend on through.
And it will extend back toward 85. Okay.
The building D is the largest of the three, or the six, excuse me. And it's a little over 1 million square feet, has 2 points of access. This is the connection area we talked about earlier. Similar to all the others, we'll talk about the road improvements a little bit later, but street trees, trees within the parking lot, another access point for these two buildings we'll touch on later, and also the Chet Hedrick property. This is a 0.8 acre tract that has a house on it, and then the next slide's got a little bit better view of that. Okay. So for the Hedricks, they're proposing a 40-foot area of undisturbed, whatever's you're growing within that location would not be removed. And there are some vegetation here. This is a little bit sparse. And it's referenced that they would supplement where it's not meeting that standard for a type A buffer within that 40-foot. Building E, one access point. They do have the connection over here to the adjacent building F. So that's the typical we would look for with the other two, but that'd be improved. This is that Duke Energy right-of-way line. And on to building F. This is the furthest reach east. And the Bolick residence, there's a home here. This is a undeveloped lot the Bolicks own. Similar to the other 40-foot reserved area and supplemented where possible. All right. With any rezoning, we compare in the district the allowed uses versus what the current zoning permits. So very simple, it's a conditional district. The table of uses, I defer to this. It's going to be hard to read here, but in your packet, you do have an attachment that's these industrial speculative development attachment. And this provides the list of uses. Here's a few that coincide with the zoning ordinance to exclude from this grouping, but 20 through 39 is the manufacturing sector. 42 through 7 is transportation services, warehousing and trucking. And then this is wholesale trade, 50 and 51. So one of the most important things with this request is traffic and the road improvements. So, and a few things that we touch on with most reports, which this one needs a little bit more, but just some bullet points of facts. Long Ferry Road's a major thoroughfare. And our traffic numbers from the reach from Front Creek over to Dukeville Road, the AADT from 19 is 6,400 to 4,100 current trips. The MPO estimates for road capacity are 11.7. That's a very generalized number with a handful of inputs. But more importantly, a request of this size would require TIA. One was performed, and this is the initial basis and input. You plug in your figures of size of structures, your land use codes, and then you have a trip generation here, AM, PM, and then total, 11,229. So within the submittal, you have what's helpful to the average individual is level of service information. And that's a measure that tries to look at least to have a qualitative approach to each intersection, providing a letter grade that is based on average vehicle delay in seconds, signalized and unsignalized intersections. So of the intersections studied, in addition to the driveways for each building, the 85 north and southbound ramp, Front Willow Creek Road intersection, Stoner Morgan and Buck Station Road were all studied, and LOS grades were provided for each of those turn movements. And not to go into the detail, what we included in the staff report was just the final build with improvements conditions. It gets a little confusing when you throw in the other variables there, but this is with the improvements required by DOT, what we would expect in those services. It also has a volume to capacity ratio that's provided if it's signalized. An unsignalized intersection would not have that variable. The audience definitely can't read this, but in your packet, you would have this information here for the intersections existing and then the new with those buildings. But you have your letter grade for AM and PM. You have, again, this is 2025 full build out of the 2.66, all the improvements put in required by DOT. Here's your vehicle seconds delay, and then the V over C ratio. When you see anything approaching 1 or 1, that means the capacity has been exhausted. So DOT reviewed this, the local staff, and also congestion management in Raleigh. And probably a little bit difficult, you'd have to study on this a bit, but for the most part, this is Long Ferry Road. This captures the improvements that's required by the developer. Adding a signal at the southbound ramp, one at the northbound, service road, which is Willow Creek, and then Front Creek, which provides access to Chewy. Access A is the building A and B and C, and B would be for D, the D building. And again, with this, you have existing laneage here and then turn lanes required. So 3 lights required, a 4th one most likely. Has a different symbol because it's to be monitored by DOT and maybe added at some point in the development phase. And then you have existing laneage and recommended laneage. Left and right turn, either extension or in some case from Front Creek to the northbound ramp, a full lane extension. As you go further down, the improvements are primarily adding a left turn option to through movement, so no additional lanes here, except for the southbound turns with a few recommended right turn added. Should also point out we will have the Long Ferry Road corridor study hopefully back sometime in the fall for some recommendations there too. Should also point out this would be a condition of a DOT driveway permit. So once you have a firm plan that's identified and a request for a driveway location and permit, this would piggyback those improvement requirements. So for our CTP map, Comprehensive Transportation Plan, probably have heard the northern Jake Loop and also the eastern. This is potential in the transportation planning world of, maybe ways to improve road network. And there's no requirement that right-of-way be preserved for roads that are, there's no alignment currently, but just in full disclosure, you have a section here. This is Long Ferry Road project area here. The location on the map shows a potential extension going through the Aldi property and then through the Red Rock property. But I only bring that up just as a point of information. None of this section's built, and it's probably would be too difficult at this point because you would need to study a alternative alignment here. A lot of moving parts, but it's something I wanted to share with the board, but I don't think at this point it'd be difficult to incorporate into this plan. Real quick, and I'll touch on a few of the aerials. Most of these are from 17s from the obliques. The Maldonado residence I touched on earlier on the north side of the Long Ferry development area. In building A, this is the one, a residence we referenced. As you go up Stoner Morgan, there's some homes here on the back corner. Directly across the street into building B, C, and D A lot of this, you got Cube Hydro and Alcoa property. There's one home here, I think another one under construction, but a lot of wooded areas here. There's the Moby Lodge and Chewy where the sewer's coming in. The Chet Hedrick residence in this small 0.8 acre parcel from 21, that photo. And on the far east, these two tracks here, Bolick residence, which you can see here. And on the north side, got the, I think it's Bethel Methodist Church. And also we have Mahaley residence and Thomas. Okay, back to the zoning map. So again, the yellow is RA. We have a few areas in red that are currently zoned CBI. Chewy's ED2, Moby Lodge ED1, Duke Energy Industrial. So again, the request CBI CD. Okay. The land use plan does not encourage industrial in area 2 with the exception of existing commercial or industrial areas in purple or the corridor areas. So about half the sites within the corridor. Stretches over here, it's a mile from 85. So again, half the sites within that corridor. It does touch on use or extension of water and sewers encouraged, so that's checked. Touched on perimeter landscaping earlier, and then the parking on the side and the rear is suggested. And then a 50-foot buffer outside the watershed along streams. Didn't touch on that, but they do have buffer areas. I think there's only one introduction of development within that area on building A, with the exception of the sewer. Public notice, we've had a couple rounds of this. Staff sent out, it's hard to tell on my screen, it does show it better here. This is a lot of folks we notified, 138 letters sent out just to get the word out. Posted sign on the property, 3 locations here, and ad in the Salisbury Post. Planning Board did recommend approval. They have a statement of consistency and reasonableness. Staff tweaked a little bit on page 10 and 11. Also have a slide up here too for the board's consideration. And lastly, we need a motion for the request and consider any conditions on page 12. So the conditions that we propose, of course, the site plan does reference the 20 feet, but just for additional emphasis, reserving 20 feet on the north and south side along Ferry. 2 is add gravel or grass paver connection suitable for fire access in the 3 locations we talked about here. One thing that I do want to point out, and it's an error on this slide and your report. So in the group of uses that are permitted, staff recommends 2 of these be removed. 4221 farm product warehouse, and it should be farm product raw materials 515. It's a group of 3 uses. It's stockpile grain, think animal hair, and various products. It's more based on a distribution of farming related type things. So, and Mr. Ward's here to address, but I spoke to him earlier and there's no concern on Red Rock, but you can hear that from him. 4, just for clarification, all uses must connect to the Northeast Rowan water system, which is the existing water line running on Long Ferry Road. And 5, any outdoor storage must be located behind the building or otherwise screened with an opaque fence. Here's the statement of consistency and reasonableness. Again, it's in your staff report there. Any questions?
Shane, can you go back over the one I brought up last time? It's just that one property that's there in the middle.
What kind of screening would go around that if they can't figure out something between the two groups?
So for the Hedrick property?
Yes.
Okay. So again, here's his parcel line. The reference here is a 40-foot area that's undisturbed. And if you noticed on that photo, there's not much here. So what this would mean to me is nothing could be built within that 40 foot. And here there would probably either be wooden fence or evergreens or something added along this line. Mind you, that would be an ordinance requirement anyway, because this is within, well, that's probably 50 feet to the driveway. There is some vegetation here that would be retained and supplemented where it would not achieve that opaque view.
What, the fencing, what is that fencing again? What does it look like?
It could be a 6-foot vinyl or wooden fence, just something that you can't see through.
Solid fence? It's not the, chain link fence with the little stuff?
No, sir. But it has to at least be something that's, it couldn't be the fence wrap or the little slats.
And so they would have, if they don't work something out, they'd have the option of either or there.
Yes, sir, they do, unless the board directs otherwise.
All right, thank you. Other questions for Shane? All right, well, stay close. All right, the applicants here, would you have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for this time to speak to you tonight. Thank you for listening to the case, and thank you so much for the staff and the county and everybody that we've worked with here has been wonderful to work with. We have worked to find solutions to make sure that we are respectful of the county, are respectful of the citizens, and create a development that creates opportunities as well as something that sets a standard that the county can be proud of. Quickly, my name is Todd Ward. I'm the Senior Vice President for Planning with Red Rock Developments. I live in Simpsonville, South Carolina. Red Rock Developments, just really quick, is about a 17-year-old company. We actually have 2 headquarters office because one of our founders lives in Columbia, South Carolina. Our other founder lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we are truly a Carolina company with headquarters in both states. I actually just work out of the house and go to whichever one I need to. So it works out nice for me. That being said, real quick on speculative development, when we started 17 years ago, we did do more build to suits for companies as they needed things. That has changed over time, and now we've always heard of speed to market. It's now more than ever with the way the industrial market is growing. There is definitely more demand than there is supply, but what tenants or users, end users are looking for now is 4 to 6 months to be operational. So when we come in and build a building, it truly is a shell building, as Mr. Stewart talked about, and it will be just enough lighting in it to make sure that we can show them through. It will have, heating and air conditioning there to maintain the building, but it will not be completely built out because we will do that to the tenant specs. For example, phase 1 would be the 2 buildings, the one on the north side of Long Ferry and then the large 1 million square footer you saw on the south. Just the shell buildings themselves are $117 million investment. So that's a short way to say we believe in Rowan County, the future of Rowan County, and this is the place to be. It's on the 85 corridor. It connects all kinds of areas in between, and it's a wonderful workforce and just a wonderful community. So this is where we'd like to be and plant our flag. Currently, Red Rock has about 11 million square feet of speculative development under construction across the country, mostly in the southeast and Midwest up through Indiana and Ohio. So we stay very close to the markets and understand each as individual, which again allows us in our backyard, as we like to say, to do it and do it right. We are very proud of what we do and the higher quality products that we do. So the landscaping, sir, just to sort of answer one of your questions around the house, if we do not come to a final agreement, which is we are continuing to talk to the landowner, but need to get a few things in place first, as I think you and I have discussed. That being said, we would not probably do the fence unless it was combined with some landscaping, because just the aesthetics of the landscaping is so much nicer. The sound attenuation is much better. All around, it is just a much better product. We've also found that by doing that better product with the landscaping that goes above and beyond what the ordinance may just require, or that minimum, it creates an area where people are proud to go to work. And there are studies, and we've seen those, and we've had feedback from our tenants and other projects that with that nicer building, they're able to retain those employees for a longer period of time. So it allows us to actually lease our buildings faster, which then in turn creates faster opportunities for the county. Real quick, just wanted to touch on the design. So the studies that we did up front, Mr. Stewart referenced a couple of them. So we did wetlands to make sure we identified all of those and had that certified. It's called a jurisdictional determination through the Army Corps of Engineers of what was and was not wetlands. The site plan you see actually shows hatching around those, whether it be a stream or a slight wetland, and that hatching around it is actually the buffer area. So we've tried to design around those to not have impacts. There will be a stream crossing with the sewer and the water, but that's expected with utilities, and we're working with Salisbury Rowan Utilities to do that in the least impactful way, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. The topography of the site, when you drive down Long Ferry, it looks kind of flat. In essence, though, it does fall off very quickly to the lake. So the buildings and the moving of the dirt is kind of synchronized right now at a very high level to get the orientation of the buildings that we have and the size of the buildings that we have makes sense. So trying to be very thoughtful that way. Once we developed the plan, once we went through the studies, including natural resources, which would be the sunflowers, which we found no sunflower habitat. We're happy about that. We conducted a community meeting that was not required by the county because we thought that was the right thing to do. Now, we did work very closely with planning as to who we should invite, how we get the word out, and things of that nature to make sure that it wasn't just for show, that it really did work. I know the chairman was able to come and a few others were able to come and just speak with the citizens, and we laid out plans and stayed there for several hours answering their questions. And again, it's the right thing to do to let the community know what's happening. They knew things were going on, so why not just be open and honest about it? We have nothing to hide. As far as the conditions that Mr. Stewart put on, there's only two that I'd like to talk about. One is the first one on the right of way, the 20 feet. The road improvements that we have to do that Mr. Stewart went through, so I won't bore you with all of those again. And working with NCDOT, all fit within the existing 60-foot right of way. We have designed to date to allow for 10 more feet on both sides to make it an 80-foot right of way down through there. An 80-foot right of way does allow for 4 lanes of traffic with a middle lane, typically called a two-way turn lane or a twiddle, that allows for those turns to go either way, or you can stripe them and designate them for designated left turn lanes. We're of the opinion that 100 foot is a little more than what could be needed if there is a turn lane or something that is needed along the road frontage when further improvements come because of the road studies. That we can do that just with a variable right of way and not the entire frontage. Just wanted to bring that up, that is one we'd like for consideration to take it to an 80 instead of 100. The other one that Mr. Stewart brought up was the connections for emergency access. We 100% agree. But as I mentioned, we have been working with some topography, and there are some retaining walls and things that do need to go in place. Building A, there's actually, even though it looks flat and close on the site plan that you see there, building A is the building to the north. There's actually some grade change there that could make that almost impossible, difficult at least. We do agree that we need to work with the fire marshal to make sure that we have all that access there for emergencies. So what we would like to propose the language, and I'm not the best wordsmith, so I will let the commissioners decide, or maybe Mr. Stewart could help out with how the language should be. It's something along the lines of working with the fire marshal to make sure that we do have emergency access so that the building can be, accessed from two different sides or something along those natures. We think there are some other ways that we can achieve the same effect without just doing the grass pavers or something of that nature. Through all-weather road surfaces and other types. The big thing is to make sure that if it's a pouring rain, that loaded fire truck, because that's going to be the heaviest of the emergency access vehicles, can navigate in the pouring rain, and that's usually the term is all-weather road access. So we just asked for a little bit with that, and obviously that then would require the fire marshal to sign off on that being safe and secure. And that would be obviously part of this final civil drawings before we got our permits. So that's the only two that we just wanted to discuss a little bit with the commission tonight. We appreciate your consideration on those 2 points. And Mr. Chairman, commissioners, if you would allow, I do have a member of the family that would like to come up and speak on behalf of the Carlton family, if that's okay.
Yeah, we'll do that during, they part of applicant. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Just trying to figure out where to fit them in. So absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. And Jay, good to see you. My name is Richard Carlton, and I live in Raleigh, but I grew up with 8 brothers and sisters on this land. And I know just about every little creek, wooded area, everything down there. And the land has been very important to us. I'm to save time, I'm speaking on behalf of the Consolidated Carlton Group. And I think y'all know most of them. They're basically 3 family members that go back. One is the city Carltons, and that's Graham Carlton back there, and Carol Carlton and Tom. And then we get to the country Carltons of Mietta and Tommy. And of course, Johnny and Sue aren't here tonight. And then I'm here on behalf of all of my brothers and sisters. And, this land's been in the family a long time. And as generations go and generations go, the worst way you want to own property is gents in common, and we're all getting older, and it's time for us to consider what to do with the property. And we have all come together around this Red Rock thing because it is important to us to leave a good legacy down there. And we think they've come up with a very comprehensive, responsible project for the county and its citizens. But we're still going to be around. Our family and my brother has retained 85 acres in the old house, and we're going to be going down that road all the time. We go down there for holidays, we go down there for everything. And Tommy's family on Mimi's side owns property down there too, from the Crider family. So he's down there all the time. And then of course, Mietta goes down there all the time. Johnny goes duck hunting all the time. And Sue lives down on the river down there. So we aren't going anywhere. We're going to be around.
By the way, I've been duck hunting with John, and he's a horrible shot.
Okay,
So
good. That'll leave some for the rest of us. Yeah. That is very good. But what we're here today is absolutely back in Red Rock and their proposal down here. And here are a few reasons why we think it's responsible, good project. And first of all,
I touched a little bit on Red Rock. We think they're very hardworking, capable, experienced, and ethical, and we wouldn't work with them if we didn't think so. Number two, the proposed buildings appear to me to be good, clean distribution centers and light industrial industries, which I think will be a good fit down there. Three, and being in Raleigh, I hear about jobs all the time, but this project is going to create a lot of good jobs, especially for a lot of young adults who consider having to leave Rowan County. They can stay here and not go to Raleigh or Charlotte or some of that. And the other thing that y'all know from economic development, a big project like this will create a lot of indirect jobs. Joe over there will start a little business and they'll start a business and everybody will be really good economically down there. I am impressed with the pro forma on the tax revenue this project will generate for the county. And this will certainly help and improve the lives of Rowan County citizens. And next, extensive studies have been done to ensure safety and good traffic flow down there. And the utilities are properly run. And it fits in with this long-term plan that I wasn't even aware of until I started getting involved with Red Rock from the very beginning. And last but not least, it'll be a nice looking site. And Mietta is very pleased that they're going to do advanced landscaping and make it a very nice site. So on behalf of the Carlton family, we would ask that y'all give a favorable vote for this zoning request. Thank you.
Mr. Carlton, how long has this property been marketed?
Well, I'm one of those who, Tommy has been more active with that. I'm one of those who just let it sit and let them come to you because, that's been my position. But I think the Economic Development Group has done a great job in doing studies down there and getting it ready. And, we're like part of Charlotte now without having to everything go to Charlotte. It's things like that. When I was a kid, Charlotte seemed way away, but now it seems like right next to the farm down there. But the county economic development folks have done a good job doing the necessary studies to market this property.
Have you worked with other developers on this over the years?
Yes, I have talked to some and I felt very good about Red Rock, or I wouldn't have been involved with, because I have too much going on to deal with people that are just hunting and, just looking around, that kind of thing. So when I talked to them, I felt very good about them. I talked to my family about them, and this is the direction we decided to go.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Carlton? All right, thank you, Mr. Carlton.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I do find very impressive about the Carlton property that Mr. Carlton left out, if you don't mind. Dick, how long's the property been in your family?
Well, I think it would go back to the Rhinelanders on the Yadkin, if y'all have read about that. That goes back to like the 1790s. And when I was a little kid, there's a history of Rowan County, and it talks about that old brick house, and Mr. Brawley says, location unknown in the history book. So that shows you how, and when we were growing up down there, we lived in the sticks down there, and my brother, when he was running for president of Salisbury High School, which was Boyden back then, he said the man from the sticks in '66. And Jim is usually here, but he's not here tonight because I think he's playing golf.
Is that what he meant by sticks?
No, because he was one of those that hunted and fished like John and all those. There were three of us that would jump in the car anytime we could get out to go play golf in town. But most of them were good country folks down there. Yeah.
Jim, he said 1790. Do you recollect?
Don't start, Greg. Don't start with me.
They always leave an opening for Jim and I. All right.
Read about the early history of the county. You read about the Rhinelanders on the Yadkin. In the History Museum in Raleigh, there's a whole section about them. Right there at Trading Forward. They were hard workers.
You think that came from a land grant from the King of England?
Yes,
I've always wondered about Tommy's loyalty.
yeah. I think I've seen some of those old land grant plats before. But Rowan County is such a historic, interesting place, and I think that adds a little bit to it, that section of the county. You don't hear a lot about it, but you know, the German folks came in and settled that area. Well, my first goose hunting trip with my son was on your land. No one knew it. We snuck on. That's not true. I was with a family member, and the first duck hunting trip was with my son. And I'll just tell you, sitting here today, oh man, 14 years later, those are two life events that I will never forget.
Wow.
They were very memorable.
That
And,
is a great story. And I'm glad y'all got some that particular day.
we did, but I get emotional thinking about time on that land with my son, and
Yes.
John was kind enough to invite us along. So
And we'd all walk around with our dads to go hunting and farming down there. We enjoyed the wheat field farming as much as the golf in town. You know, we always look forward to June when they do the wheat.
yeah. Well, thank you very much.
More questions?
Anything else, Todd? Any other questions for Todd? We'll keep all of them around for other questions if we have some.
I've got a question. If
Todd.
Most of our citizens are really interested in the road situation there. Could you take just a minute to explain to our citizens about the traffic lights that are going to be in there and exactly who helped to develop the roadway through there and just how that comes about and the state's activity and how the state helps to dictate exactly road turns and lights and how that comes about. And I don't want you to get tied down to an hour discussion, but I think people would just like to know how these things come about.
Yes, sir. So I think a lot of people would understand that one exit down at the Aldi, there is a little bit of congestion. May or may not be an understatement. And then with Chewy's, now there's currently, I believe, an officer during shifts that's helping get people in and out. We met with NCDOT as well as planning staff at the same meeting, and we developed what's called a scope of work, which is everything that NCDOT and would like to see studied on Long Ferry Road, and it went all the way out to the interstate, and then a little further towards the lake. We do traffic counts in the mornings and the evenings, do that over 2 to 3 weeks. So then you can average it out and understand what typical traffic patterns are like. Looking at the intersections with Chewy's, the interstate, the other intersections down through there, just to see how they function today. We worked with NCDOT on the uses as well. We wanted to be very conservative on the way the trips or the number of vehicles in and out of the site would be counted. You can see it in some places. They might do light manufacturing, which frankly has very low. E-commerce has the highest amount of ins and outs every single day, employees and trucks. So we did a nice mix with them, went on the high side to make sure that we captured everything. Went through our studies, our counts, made our recommendations. And what that produced then was what Shane was showing earlier, which was 2 traffic signals at I-85, whether you're going north or south, a dedicated lane for Chewy's to come in off of the interstate down to their entrance or the frontage road, however you'd like to say that. A light there at the Chewy's and the new convenience store to help mitigate that traffic as well. There is one further down at our main entrance that we had a nice discussion with NCDOT about the way to handle that. And the reason I mean that, that is where the building on the north, which is about a little over 500,000 square feet, it's about 540. And then the 1 million square foot on the south side, that's where their entrances line up. And that was to be determined future light, meaning once it met the criteria that NCDOT has, that a light would be put in there to manage traffic. They did not want to put one in proactively at the beginning of development, just to have it functioning with no reason that would stop traffic. We discussed it through with them, and we all agreed that coming back and putting all that traffic signal in once everything was operational, and we've done road improvements, the turn lanes and everything else to maintain the roads going through. So let me back up on that. So we have turn lanes that gets our traffic out of the 2 current lanes that are going down Long Ferry so that people continue to go straight and they're not backed up by people making turns. However, that signal, we realized that to go back and do that construction with new asphalt and everything else could make a mess in a lot of different ways. So what we determined was we'll go ahead and put in all the infrastructure, meaning the little cabinets that sit on the side that have all the computer stuff in it, the mast arms, which is the poles that go out that hold the light. We'll put everything in place with the exception of the light. So all it has to be done is like a light bulb being screwed in. A little more complicated, but not much. So once we hit what DOT refers to as warrants, or the criteria meets that threshold, we'll simply put up the light fixtures and with little hesitation or inconvenience to the traveling public is probably the better way to say it. So we've worked very closely with them. Planning staff has been involved through that whole entire process to make sure that we did the very best that we could to ensure the safety and convenience of the traveling public down Long Ferry.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Todd, can I take 30 seconds to explain my understanding so I can make sure everyone clearly understands what the traffic improvements are? I know you just talked about some of it. But if you're going north or south on 85 and you get off the exit north or south, there will now be traffic lights there.
Correct.
If you ever go down to, and I'm sure it's in other exits as well, but I think of Concord Mills, where when you pull up to that light, you have a couple of right-hand turns. So my understanding is now, because of the Chewy project, when folks make a right-hand turn, they're making a right-hand turn onto just a single travel lane and going right.
Correct.
What they'll have now, there will be 2 right-hand turns. The furthest right-hand turn lane will essentially be a Chewy lane. And so if you work at Chewy now, you will get in the far right-hand lane and that will take you straight to Chewy. The left right-hand lane will be a travel lane and that'll travel clear to the lake, right?
Yes.
If you approach the project and you want to turn right into the project, there will be a new right-hand turn lane.
Correct.
So if you want to turn right, you merge into the right-hand lane, the travel lane should be maintained. If you want to turn left into the north side of the project, there will be a left turn lane. And so again, the travel lane shouldn't be affected. We should still have a travel lane coming from 85 all the way to High Rock Lake. Does that make sense?
That is correct, sir.
If you're coming from High Rock Lake and you're going to work at one of these facilities, if you're turning right to go into the northern part of the project, you'll get in a turn lane to turn right. So the travel lane remains traveling. If you're turning left, there's a center turn lane to turn left into the southern part. Does that all sound right to you?
Yes, sir. That is all correct.
Okay, so what we're doing is maintaining travel lanes to and from the water. And if you're going to turn right, you'll have a turn lane. If you're going to turn left, you'll have a turn lane. And the good thing is they're at Chewy, they'll have their own dedicated lane now, which is not your project, but it's your problem. So you'll be improving the road even for Chewy.
You'd think they'd want to give us a commendation for that, but no,
Well,
I'm teasing. I'm
no.
sorry.
So I
No, but that
Just
is
wanna
true,
make
sir. Yes,
sure,
sir. We
yeah.
should not only be taking care of our traffic, but actually correcting an issue, a situation that works now.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll add to that is the county, along with the help of the planning department, Rowan County Planning Department and the MPO, we have commissioned a study that would study, and you might have to correct me, I'm not sure if it's from 85 all the way to the lake, but it's additional. We understand that Long Ferry Road is a travel thoroughfare. And so we're doing a study to see, well, what does Long Ferry Road look like past the project? Interestingly, Spencer is also interested in what happens to the west side of 85. So Spencer has hired a group, the same group we've hired, to look at the west side as it goes into Spencer, but also connects to some available land up 85. And so all that's being done at the same time. So Long Ferry Road should be well taken care of. All right, any other questions for Todd? All right, Todd, don't go anywhere, stick around. So we're gonna have a public comment now. We'll open the floor and we'll have public comment if anyone is here that would like to speak regarding the project. And now would be a good time. I think I know April says that she may have someone on Zoom. So I don't know if this is the project they wanted to talk about. If there's another, I'll let you verify that for us, April.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe Megan Johnston wishes to speak. Megan, you have speaking privileges.
Thank you, Megan. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for this time to speak. My name is Megan Johnston. I grew up here in northern Rowan County in the Long Ferry Road area and have now chosen to build a new construction home in this area to raise my family. Myself, like many others, consider this a residential area and really have no interest in this area becoming industrialized. If we were interested in living in that type of area, we would have chosen to live in the city of Salisbury, Concord, or another surrounding area like Charlotte. We already have traffic concerns in this area due to Chewy that require a uniformed officer during shift changes to direct traffic because of the overwhelming traffic pattern that we have here now. There are already many established industrial areas in Rowan County that are either already built and vacant or more readily able to accommodate this type of growth. As mentioned by the developer, the buildings are shell buildings. They do not have tenants. The last thing Rowan County needs is more vacant buildings. In order to have this area support a large business park, as is proposed, many costly changes will have to be made, such as widening roads, stoplights, changes to existing water and sewer systems, changes to the power lines would need to be moved. This decision would also hurt the agricultural development in northern Rowan County by removing numerous large fields that make up hundreds of acres of farmland, as well as disrupting wildlife in this area. The people proposing this and in support of this will largely not be impacted day to day by this decision, either by inconvenience or changes in property value. I strongly urge you to reconsider the want or need for this type of project in northern Rowan County. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan. April, are there any others?
We'll extend the offer to our other remote participants. If you'd like to raise your hand or press *9 if joining by phone, we'll recognize you for public comment. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone wishing to speak at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Todd, could you come back up again? She raised a question regarding power lines. So would power lines need to be moved? The Duke Energy power lines?
No, sir, they will not. We've been working very closely with Duke Energy on that. In fact, they'll basically be extended over to the site and to the individual buildings, but we will not have to relocate any.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have anyone else during public comment? Yes, ma'am. Hi, and welcome.
Thank you for your indulgence at this time. My name is Leslie Poe Parker. I live at 1615 Long Ferry Road, which is on the southern side of the road. And I'm here representing the Poe family, P-O-E. And we have lived there my entire life. I'm 68. My family has lived there, and our concerns are the same as the other individual. We have traffic issues. We have noise pollution from the trucking industry there, and then from Chewy. At night, you can open your windows with the screens and still hear noise. And we're just totally in opposition to this. My family has 7 lots along the road there, some residential, some undeveloped. They're all adjacent. And as a family, we're just not really interested in having our area industrialized. It's residential, just like Megan said, and we're just not excited about this. Thank you.
Ms. Poe, thank you for being here. Anyone else?
Obviously, I didn't come here tonight to make a comment on this. I had no idea this was coming up, but I think this is a bad idea. And the same reasons as Megan and Ms. Poe have eloquently put out. I am worried about the industrialization of the north end of our community here in Rowan County. My husband and I own property not adjacent to this, but we have a 100-acre farm that we farm and raise grass-fed beef on. And we're concerned about that because we know there's something coming up in the Spencer zoning that's going to try to change that. I think we are not keeping under consideration the fact that Rowan County has a very vibrant agricultural base, and it's not just in the western end. It's also down that road as well. I know that because I know a family that farms that area, leases a lot of land along that area, makes their living doing that, and is going to greatly impact that family's ability to make a living. It is residential. I agree with Ms. Poe and Megan on the Zoom call that it should remain residential. I have concerns as well that these are shell buildings. We don't know what type of industry or what type of manufacturing will take place there. I also have concerns about the road. I have friends and go up and down that road quite often during the Chewy hours of work and shift changes. It's a major issue. And I do not think that having turn lanes is going to change that. It needs a major overhaul of a true 4-lane road in order to consider an infrastructure this large. I also feel like Megan did and Ms. Poe did, people that live there and that's their residence, you are greatly going to impact their lifestyle. And I asked this question as a rhetorical question. If this was coming to your neighborhood, would you sit and vote for this to come to your neighborhood? Thank you for allowing me to make this comment.
All right, do we have any others? Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have any other questions that we'd like to ask staff or we'd like to ask applicant? All right, so where we are is we can discuss this before moving to number 5 and 6. If we move to 5 and 6, then we're kind of heading down that road, so to speak. I'll start off by mentioning a couple things myself. you know, that this isn't something that really cropped up overnight, and that may not be of any comfort to a few folks, but you know, we've very publicly been through Duke site readiness programming on this. Duke came out and spent a tremendous amount of dollars to study these sites. We've been through that. Had a lot of public meetings regarding Duke's findings. So I know, that's why I asked Mr. Carlton about, you know, how long has this been for sale? I don't know how long it's been, but as long as I can remember it, it has been. And just like the land there right on 85 that Chewy has ended up on now. So this is something that's really been discussed for a long, long, long time. And so now it's finally coming to fruition. When you look at the development that's happening in Rowan County, it really is happening along the 85 corridor. As I drive down Long Ferry Road, I look at my mileage gauge, and I've done it over and over to see, you know, what the distance is from 85 to the site, and it's about 7/10 of a mile. So it's a little less than a mile when you get there, and that is certainly considered inside the corridor. I will throw this out there because I've had this said a lot. This won't affect any of y'all. The fact is, I am moving to Long Ferry Road, and I will live near the end of Long Ferry Road. And so what we are discussing today is something that I personally and my wife and family will deal with for the rest of our living lives here in Rowan County. So the last thing I want to deal with is traffic issues that's going to, you know, to affect my family and myself. So I can't speak for the other commissioners. I can only say, and I don't leave judgment when I say this, I am also putting myself where my mouth is. I will be part of this. And so we knew when we decided to move down Long Ferry Road that, and none of this was really going on then, that one day that site would be developed. We bought there anyway. And so we know that we will deal with those issues in the future. So that's, wanted to make sure I have that in the record so folks understand that. There was one thing brought up about noise. I don't know about noise. I know that I received one comment a couple of months ago from an individual about lighting. So I don't know, Todd, if you wanted to mention any, they call it light noise. Is that what they refer to that as? So yeah, light noise. Could you maybe comment on that?
Yes, sir. I've heard both light noise and light pollution.
Yeah.
So what we do is we do a maximum of 35-foot light pole. You know, what you see in a lot of the old Walmart shopping centers, don't mean to pick on Walmart, but it's one everybody knows. Those were 50 feet and above and just blanketed everything. And that's what everybody hates. Lighting in those fixtures that go in there are a lot more controllable, for lack of a better term now. So the two things, that the lights are more directional and you can control those. So when you hit the property line, yes, you can still see the glow, you know, but at the property line, the measurement is called foot candles. And we are typically less than 1 foot candle. We try to get 0. It's almost impossible to get 0. But we try to have that right there at the property line. So our light stops at the property line and stays where it's supposed to. The areas that are going to be slightly brighter are right around the building, and that's pretty much required for safety protocols. And then as you get a little further out, it's just to maintain safety for the drivers and things. The other aspect of the lights that we use is what's called full cutoff, meaning they come down, but it cuts it off from going up in the sky. A lot of communities have what's called night sky ordinances, and the lights that we use and fixtures we use meet all those ordinances.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anyone else? Any questions, any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to bring the point to the community that several years ago, when we were elected, we heard complaints for years. We need new schools. We need central office. We need all kinds of things because it seemed that economic development came from Charlotte and it came up to the end of the Cabarrus County line. It jumped over Rowan County and started back at Davidson County and went on up the road. Nobody wants economic development beside of their house. I wouldn't like it, and nobody else is going to like it. But economic development has come into our lives. I personally think that the 85 corridor is a natural place for it and is a good spot for us to bring in all kinds of tenants. I hope that you folks that live close by, if we don't want anybody to lose their house, but I hope that things can be settled where you don't feel as disturbed by this. But we are talking about over the next few years, $500 million before the tenants come in here. And then after the tenants come in, it might double that amount of money that we're going to get taxes on. And out of that taxes, we're going to be able to pay for schools. We're going to, well, I might not be around for it because it's going to be 6-7 years before it's completed. But there's going to be money here that hasn't been here before. And it's going to take care of a lot of schools. It's going to take care of a lot of the development that's coming in here. And this is no small investment in our community. This is a terrific investment in our community. And I hope that you folks will see how it will improve what we have here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The change is always difficult. And this is going to be a big change for many people. But I think like Commissioner Green said, this county has waited a long time for economic development to come. And when we look at the counties around us that have had that economic development, not only has it allowed them to build those schools and other amenities for the public, but I believe it's also allowed them to reduce their tax rate. Am I right, Mr. Chairman? Okay. And as we look at lowering that tax rate, we will become even more a more desirable place to live. And so it's a hard balance. It's a really hard balance. And I think some of you know that I had a dairy farm up in Wisconsin, and all of a sudden down at the end of my 1 mile road, there were like houses popping up instead of cornfields. And that was a shock for me and my family. And it changed things. But we can make change and try and stop it, or we can help to guide it to the benefit of our community. And it's hard when you've been there for 100 years, 200 years. It's very, very difficult to change. And for that, I just hope that this is something that can be accepted by the community, because developing along the 85 corridor makes the most sense. And at this point, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to vote to approve this.
Anything from you? Anything from you?
What's that?
Anything from you?
Yeah. So they're thinking about, we got budget tonight and going through all the different things that the requests that have come through. And obviously we haven't been able to fund everything that was requested. We are a growing county. Obviously, money is not the most important thing in life, but we try to get the services the citizens need. Having this investment, I think, is going to help us get those in the future. I do think we need to watch over the next few years as we grow to make sure we keep their good farmland in place. I was talking to some farmers recently, and one of the leaders in the farming community, and he said, a lot of the folks know that things are going to grow. We just got to make sure that we keep our good farmland in place. Change is coming. Where I live, they're getting ready to build over 1,000 houses. So we don't know what's going to happen to the roads around there once they do that. So we're kind of waiting to see what'll happen with that. But growth's coming. We just got to make sure we do it the right way. And, being less than a 3/4 of a mile from the interstate, I tell folks that's probably where the growth's going to be, because the utilities and the other things that are needed are probably not out in the county from great distance. So obviously it's going to be a change for the area. I know some folks are going to have closer than other to this property. I still hope that they can work out an agreement with that homeowner there that's in the little cutout. But so we have to make hard decisions up here, and we have to kind of weigh pluses and minuses. And I think overall, this will be for the community overall will be a good boost.
More than once we've sat up here and talked about growth is finally coming. We're grateful for that. We'll talk about budget later tonight. And this year is a strange year for us in budget because we have all of the bills coming due from inflation, but none of the income coming. So we're in a real pickle this year. So how do we boost the revenue side to meet existing expenses that we have? So we've had this discussion from up here over the past couple years about as growth comes, we will begin to have to make decisions that we've never made before. It's not just industrial. I got a call this week from a gentleman that says someone's buying land near my house and they want to put a bunch of houses there. So it's not just that industrial is coming. We're grateful for that. It is that residential growth is coming. So whether it's industrial or residential, we get the same calls from folks affected. And it's understandable that, well, I'd rather that 100 acres just stay as it is. I don't want to own it. I just want you to maintain it. And so that we have the familiarity of that land like we've always had. And then the last thing I'll say, and I promise, is I know back in 2014 and 2015, we really began to dig in and study on Rowan County's economy. And as we looked at all of the counties around us, what we found out they were doing that we had not yet figured out is they were doing a very good job on recruiting industrial to their area. Industrial versus residential is a winner. Industrial is so much more desirable because you typically have your fire and your police and sheriff already in place, and they don't demand a whole lot of services. We could do the math really quickly. I know when we were talking about the Macy's deal, if you took $600 million and you divided that, let's say you had $250,000 houses, it would take 2,400 $250,000 houses to reach $600 million, and the services that are required for that number of residences is it's staggering what it would cost a community to take care of that many houses. But when you get industrial coming in, what we learned back in 14 and 15 is that the counties around us were doing such a great job of that, and we hadn't figured out yet how to recruit industrial. And the industrial has really been referred to as the hedge against higher taxes. Industrial is what allows us to get revenue to keep residential taxes low. So I know that we recently asked a consultant about the demand in the Charlotte region, and this is pretty remarkable. There's 34 million square feet currently of demand that has not been built in the Charlotte region, which extends clear down into Rock Hill, South Carolina. And currently about 15 or 16 million square feet is being looked at in Rowan County. And there's a lot of reason for that. It's because of our central location, power, 29, 85, 77, 40, all of that. And so we are the center of attention right now. And so for that, we're grateful, and we're trying to keep this as tight to 85 as we can. We'll probably see growth down Highway 70 toward Cleveland. But outside of that, I'm not so worried about gobbling up other land, because the demand is, and Todd maybe could tell us differently, but it seems like the demand is going to be along your major corridors, which would be 85, 29, Highway 70, heading towards 77 and 40. So hopefully these conversations won't be difficult in the future. So I would offer up on page 10 is following statement following statement for reasonableness and consistency. Z04-22 is consistent with the East Area Land Use Plan and reasonable and appropriate based on the following. Industrial land uses are encouraged within that I-85 corridor. The project complies with the plan's encouraged use and extension of water and sewer utilities. Perimeter buffering and screening is proposed. 50-foot stream buffers are provided. 384-acre zoning area borders 172-acre consisting already of 85 ED1 and ED2 districts to the west and 585-acre industrial zoned area to the north. The request complies with the CBI district's purpose and intent by utilizing public investment infrastructure to provide tax base and employment opportunities for the local and regional economies. This property is identified by the Rowan County Economic Development Council as one of the best industrial sites in the county. And the conditional district ensures development will be limited to the approved plan. So I make that in the form of a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All right, we have a second. Other discussion, open back up for discussion. All right, we have
We're gonna make any changes.
yeah, so maybe I jumped the gun a little bit. I tell you what, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and ask for, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye on that condition, reasonableness and consistency.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. All right. Now, we do want to talk about conditions on page 12. And the conditions, we should have probably done this before I ventured into this. So there are 4 conditions: reserve 20 feet along the south and north side of Long Ferry Road. Shane, could we talk about that? And so we heard the applicant's request on that. Could you talk to us about the 20 feet on each side?
I feel pretty firm about this. We're talking about a lot of development, future unknowns, quarter study. 60 foot, if you do the math, 12-foot lanes times 5 is 60 on the nose. So it's going to be tight to thread that needle. I mean, we can kind of debate over between 60 and 100, but 100 foot's a common thing for a quarter that needs, well, if you add in an eastbound and a westbound through, that's 84. And we're just talking simple math of lane width and nothing more. So 100 foot, I feel really strong about. I don't know if Ms. Everett would be able to pull that presentation back up, but one thing that the staff report didn't include is the connection to that northeast Rowan water line. So probably a given, but at the same time, feel like that should be a condition of approval.
Didn't it mention that they had to connect to the water and sewer? What did we read that said it had to connect to water and sewer on that northeast line?
Yeah, it's here. My staff report. It was a given that there's only one existing water line, but it's provided just for clarity. And then the only other thing that I would say is just this condition should say 515 and not 9. That is farm product raw materials. So this is eliminating 4221, 515, striking the 9. So correction in the staff report with this, adding 4, and I do, it's probably fair from Mr. Ward's statement on 2 that it could be identified after the reference to 3 locations to indicate unless site conditions prohibit it as such determined by the fire marshal. Provide them an out. That's the fire access connections between parking areas.
So how would number 2 be reworded then?
So after the word location here and before the colon and getting into the options, unless site conditions prohibit as determined by the fire marshal.
Fire marshal, are you okay with that? Are you? Yeah, go ahead. We're talking about item 2 up here. We had talked earlier about the applicant getting together with you and coming up with a plan for additional access to those roads. So instead of us spelling it out, we could leave it in your capable hands of working out a resolution.
Yes, Shane and I have been speaking about this. For the load capacity of 80.
Okay.
So without knowing exactly what that's saying.
All right.
But she and I will work together on that.
Okay. So Mr. Todd, it sounds like number 1 is the only one that there's some sticking point to, and he'd like us to stand by that. Is that all right?
I understand that, Mr. Chairman, and if there is going to be a 100 foot is a divided highway. 80 foot is non-divided with the 2-way turn lane in between. If it's going to be a divided highway, then I would concur that it does need to be the 100 foot. And, we'll work through that as we need. And thank you for the, taking a relook at number 2 and getting the wording where we can work if there are crazy site conditions to work with staff to make sure that we provide for that safety.
think he brings up a good point, Shane does, that as we complete our own study for our citizens for the rest along Ferry Road, to have as much flexibility as possible there. So, all right, so I'll make as a motion that we use these conditions 1 through 5, and in item number 3, that be changed to code 515, and that number 2, we change it to reflect Shane's comments regarding getting together with our fire marshal to work out something that satisfies her. So I'll make that in the form of a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, then do we have a motion to approve Z04-22?
So move.
All right, motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, thank you. Shane, thank you. All right, Aaron, moving on to public hearing for HLC 01-22.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have the public hearing for the St. Andrew's Episcopal Church and Cemetery to be nominated as a local designation, as a local historic landmark. The owner is the Episcopal Diocese of North Carolina. The applicant is Betsy Brown and is located at 1115 St. Andrew's Church Road. Further reference is tax parcel 806-013. So the St. Andrew's Church was formed in early 1840 by some 20 communicants of the Church of Christ in Cleveland, who withdrew to organize themselves as a separate congregation, which they named St. Andrew's. The church was built in 1840 by Jacob Carell, and the first service was held in August of 1840. It served as an active parish from 1840 to 1906, and then since closing as an active parish has had a service every last Sunday of August since 1907. Along with the church is the cemetery, which is enclosed in basalt stone wall and divided into an upper and lower graveyard, with the white church members located in the upper graveyard and the enslaved persons were buried in the lower graveyard. So St. Andrews was added to the National Register of Historical Places in 1982. It was one of the first 5 churches to be recognized by the Diocese of North Carolina as a preserved historic church in the 1980s. Historic churches have been overseen by the Historic Properties Commission of the Diocese and are supported and maintained by a committee whose members are appointed by the bishop. St. Andrew's Church is associated with the revival of fortunes and influence in the Episcopal Church in Rowan County, North Carolina, in the early decades of the 19th century. Its history reflects the important periods of history in the region of the state. Construction with the region was still largely agricultural, and the history of the church reflects the development of industry in the area, as the decision to close the church was because of shifting transportation patterns. More importantly, historically, as documentation of the church's records, the significant role of enslaved persons referred to as servants in the church's records, to a rural, mostly agricultural society. The role of the church and its families during the Civil War, as recorded in the number of baptisms and burials in the elders in St. Andrews and other churches of the community, and the creator of the other congregations of newly emancipated slaves, which was reflected in the declining number of baptisms, confirmations, and burials of enslaved persons after 1866. So the statement of significance for the church, St. Andrew's Church is associated with the revival of fortunes and influence of the Episcopal churches in Rowan County in North Carolina in the early decades of the 19th century. The church is associated with the lives of its parishioners, members of several of the most prominent families in Western Rowan County. Jacob Carell, the builder of the church, is buried in the cemetery along with the early members and their descendants. And the church and its cemetery embody the distinct characteristics of the cultural and religious unit, maintain in a remarkable degree of structural and site integrity. The framed church, resting on a low stone foundation, covered in unpainted weathered boards and a gabled roof, is one of Western North Carolina's few remaining intact antebellum Episcopal churches. And with its adjoining stone enclosed churchyard is a unique interpretation of vernacular architecture. So along with this is the architectural description of the church. Just a few highlights. It's a weatherboard frame church that rests upon a completely dry loam stone foundation. The southwest elevation has a 3-bay division of the first story with a 2-bay arrangement of the gable above. Large, particularly shaped granite steps lead the double leaf board and batterned doors in the outer bays. Between them is a window opening and containing a 9/9 slash protected by board and battered blinds and side wrap hinges. The arrangement of the doors and windows continue throughout the first story and high in the gable end with a pair of windows containing 6/6 sash and provide light to the gallery. Both the northwest and southwest side elevations have a 4-bay division with doors set in the northmost of their bays. In both instances, large, particularly shaped granite blocks serve as steps. The rear of the church is 4 symmetrically placed windows with 2 inner windows raised above the others and above the altar inside. In the gable end of the pair of windows, the opposite of those of the front elevation. While the front wood shingle roof and some of the exterior siding are modern replacements, all the doors and most of the wooden structures are original, and any replacement has occurred only where repairs have been beyond possible. So additions and alterations from the original structure. In 1890, a pair of altar rooms were built in the north and eastern corners of the church, flanking the raised chancel. And at the same time, the gallery was enclosed. In 1977, the gallery was reopened and the floor was repaired and railings were installed for safety. The metal roof, which was not original, was replaced with hand split shingles. Additional restoration includes replacing some of the sills and studs and hand forged hinges and locks, repairing shutters and windows, and spraying the building with a wood preservative. Many of the boards were taken from older structures of the area that were over 100 years old. Since 2010, major repairs have been made to protect the structure in keeping with the original character and the materials to the extent possible. The original 1840 siding, which had been repaired and replaced many times throughout the years, was replaced on the east and southeast sides of the church. Siding to the east and cemetery side came from beams out of a 19th century mill torn down in Gastonia, and the siding of the south side of the church was sawn from newly milled select yellow pine. Repairs have been made to some of the window frames and shutters, which have been worn down over the years. And in 2020, the roof was once again replaced with hand-cut shingles like those used in the 1980s restoration. So here's some of the elevations that were used in the state submittal. Here are some shots of the cemetery. So the designation area is both the church and the cemetery, and it's just the exterior of the church. And then this highlighted area here is both the church and the cemetery, and it's approximately 1 acre. And then as far as procedures, we need to conduct a public hearing and then approve, deny, and table the request in the designation ordinance. And if you have any questions, I'd be here to answer them.
Can we get them to change their service from the last week in August to something more appropriate, maybe in April or October?
That might be difficult, seeing as they've been doing it for over 100 years.
No. When we started, it wasn't that day.
We even got you telling your own jokes.
They're just as bad as yours.
I know. All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and open the floor for a public hearing. This is a really great, this is a cool place. Do we have anyone that would like to speak about this? All right. Hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to approve this HLC 01-22?
So moved.
Motion Craig, second Judy. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you. Some of y'all have the worst possible night ever to be on the agenda.
I noticed the baseball players didn't hang around very long.
No, I didn't. Aaron, are you up?
The next item on the agenda is the public hearing for the public to speak, and then there's a between that and the brief budget presentation and discussion, there's a SNIA amendment.
All right, so we'll just have then the public hearing.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll open the floor to a public hearing. If there's anyone that would like to speak on the upcoming budget, except for you two. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Cindy Fink, and I live at 105 Yorkshire Drive in Salisbury, and I'm the Executive Director of Meals on Wheels. I'd like to thank you all for your allocation for 2022 budget year. And thanks to you and many other donors, we provided over 97,000 meals and served over 940 individuals in 2021. We continue to offer home delivered meals, our grocery program, delivery of Rowan Helping Ministries USDA boxes, and our Charlie Project. For those of you who don't remember, our Charlie Project uses a touchscreen device that allows Meals on Wheels staff and family and friends to communicate with and engage other participants every day. The data from our Charlie Project shows a 30 to 50% increase in the number of social interactions and a 30% decrease in the symptoms of depression among our participants. Our goal is to continue serving home delivered meals to eligible citizens in Rowan County. During the past year, we only used a waiting list from 5 to 8 times, and we are currently budgeting to serve 300 individuals daily. Due to a 70% increase in the cost of our meals, last August, our budget has increased by $247,000. Outside of the home care block grant funding of $65,400, which funds 19 participants for 1 year, we must raise over $1,114,000. I see from the county manager's budget that it's recommending maintaining the same level of funding at about $72,000. But in light of the fact that we're dealing with the 70% increase in our meal price, I hope that you will consider funding the recommended department budget of $126,418 as found on page 459 of your budget document. We are filling the gaps for senior nutrition in Rowan County. We continue to serve the homebound and quasi-homebound across the county. We certainly appreciate what you've done in the past and ask for your consideration in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
I'm going to provide these annual reports to Carolyn for you all.
Good evening. Douglas A. Smith, the Social Services Board Chair. Honorable Chairperson Eds, Commissioners, Madam Clerk, Council Dees, Manager Church, Director Howden, ladies and gentlemen. Your consideration tonight of an Attorney 1 and Social Work Supervisor 2 position would fulfill what would have otherwise been several job positions at the Department of Social Services. Let me explain. Traditionally, institutions such as ours compartmentalize completely with only executive staff crossing the division lines. Post-session law 2017-41 became evident that departments statewide must manage multi-tiered monthly audits by state officials while supporting the increased demands of their original statutory mandated services of protecting children, seniors, wards, and the disabled, and administering Medicaid and economic services in accordance with federal and state law. The Attorney 1 position we propose will primarily support child protection prosecutions by bringing the present caseload ratio in line with the American
Bar Association standards, effectively assist the lead attorney 2 in this division with the increase of complex litigation, and create greater access by Child Protective Services investigators to legal advice and counsel. This new Attorney 1 position will cross divisions by supporting child support enforcement and adult guardianship services currently handled by one of the 2 Attorney 2 positions, as well as advise on increasingly complex Medicaid matters and drive civil action against intentional benefit, fraud benefits. Now, this is important. Historically, the department has not had the resources to prosecute civilly fraud. We've had to refer that to the district attorney's office. If the commission were to grant us this position, it would platform us for future aggressive prosecution and recapture of funds that were fraudulently taken from the Department of Social Services, basically taken from Rowan County federal and state funds. The Social Work Supervisor 2 position is a division crossover creation in its purest sense. In other words, this position is truly a crossover position and it serves 2 divisions, both the Social Work Services Division, Economic Services. And the reason why we're asking for this position, it substitutes us having to put personnel in each division. This particular position would serve what we are presently experiencing, which is an increasing demand from reports of adult abuse, neglect, exploitation, adult home care monitoring, adult daycare monitoring. Likewise, the Economic Services Division is experiencing growth in programs such as Medicaid, food, nutrition services, workforce, family assistance, child daycare, energy assistance, and water assistance. Let me underscore that with regards to these services, your Department of Social Services serves as like a fiduciary. In other words, we take federal and state funds and we make sure that they are timely processed. Failure to do so oftentimes results in state or federal action. In closing, the Board of Social Services thanks the staff of the department for their service, dedication, and flexibility in these challenging times. And the board greatly appreciates the commission's consideration tonight of these 2 positions. Thank you.
Mr. Smith. Anyone else? You got a question?
Yeah, I've got a question right there.
Hey, okay. Do you have a question for Doug? Hey, Doug, come on back up.
Smith.
Sorry, Mr. Smith.
Just popping this out to you, and you may not be ready for it. The Attorney 1 level, you haven't prosecuted the prosecution of folks that you are in charge of, trying to get money back from their siblings. Is this something that really happens at any time? It would seem to me that there's rarely going to be any funds ever recovered.
Good question, Commissioner Green. I think your question covers several different areas. First, there's child support enforcement. Child support enforcement covers both the establishment and the enforcement. And Commissioner Green, we have under Chapter 4D of the federal statutory scheme, particular powers that go well beyond what we're accustomed to in the business world in collecting monies. It's amazing how we can work, reach into lawyers' trust accounts and levy settlement funds for car injury and collecting funds for.
You're saying lawyers' accounts. Are lawyers ever sued for any?
We've never
Well-
had to, and let me give you the context. So one of the most common ways we collect past due child support is someone who owes, say, $20,000-$30,000 in past due child support, gets involved in an auto accident, and they reap a huge settlement because they have a great plaintiff's lawyer. Well, we noticed that lawyer that their client owes the Department of Social Services and a lot of times Rowan County $26,000. That attorney is obligated with those funds to tender those funds before those funds are dispersed for anything else to the county coffers. Now, one thing we have not been able to prosecute civilly at this point in time is fraud. So someone comes in for Medicaid services, say for instance, or comes in for child support establishment, which if they're asking for a child support establishment, oftentimes, those funds for support of that minor child comes from Rowan County first. So they fill out an intake sheet. And in that intake sheet, you would be very surprised at how many people misrepresent the circumstances for which they're seeking services.
No, I wouldn't.
No, we wouldn't.
Good. And that's what we want to prosecute and recover funds. Now, let's talk about fund recovery. In fraud, pursuing fraudulent funds, we're going to have, again, the powers vested in to organizations like ours, whether it be a Department of Social Services or a consolidated entity, to claw these funds either from, like I gave earlier, settlement funds, real property. We even have the ability to look into the federal government limited abilities, Social Security database, to see where someone's working. We can garnish wages. It is amazing how we can seek these funds out. Now, additionally, Chapter 4D gives us the ability to turn to our sister agencies in other states with relative ease. So if there's property, whether it be real or personal, i.e. funds, those sister agencies are obligated by federal law to levy those assets. And we do that all the time.
Is that a line item that we can look at?
It is. And in your packet, there are the two positions are set out in your packet. One thing I do want to underscore and is the county's investment here. So these two positions both have federal and state reimbursement. In your packets, that exact amount is set out for you. But percentage-wise, we're talking about the attorney one position is reimbursed at the rate of 50%. So 50% of the cost of that position is covered by federal and state funds that comes into us each and every year. The social work supervisor 2 position is reimbursed at the rate of 59%. Did I answer your question?
No. Gave me a good explanation for having an attorney, but you didn't let. I'm asking if you have a line item budget and how much money are we talking about if that you recover each year?
Haven't, have we?
You would track recovery.
Yes, we do track recovery.
Is there recovery now? Is there any recovery now?
For child support enforcement.
So this attorney one, I think what we're asking, they'll have multiple job descriptions. One of them, you're not hiring this attorney one to prosecute fraud. That's just one of the things that they could do.
That's kind of a platform that we look to do in the future. This attorney one position will support the two present attorney two positions, as well as allow us the time and resource to begin asset recovery in fraud cases.
All right, you're losing an attorney two.
We are not losing an attorney two.
All right. The lady who was elected, it's judge.
Yeah, you're losing the person, but not the position.
Oh, yes, yeah.
The
FTEs stay the same.
Fill that position. Maybe I should have put it that way.
Yes, we anticipate that Mrs. Dry, soon to be Judge Dry, will be leaving the agency, and then we'll fill that FTE, which
She
is
an attorney two or one?
she is an attorney two.
Okay.
And you'll be adding a one.
And we'll be adding a one to support the two twos. Love how that sounds.
Yep.
Thank you.
What are you saying? April, do we have anyone on Zoom that is looking to speak?
We'll extend an invitation to our remote participants if you'll use the raise your hand feature within the Zoom application or press *9 if joining us by phone.
Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to speak? April, anyone?
No, sir.
Then we'll close the public hearing and we will move on. Shane.
All right, so last year, the board approved a SNIA permit application for some property out there at the Mooresville Motorsports Park. And at that time, the owner owned one lot here, and the approval covered one parcel and two 12,000 square foot buildings. The owner since purchased some additional land to the south and combined that with this tract. And now with the additional acreage, which was allocated before to the developed parcel portion that the structure here, Rudder LLC, is the current owner. And so one of which the change is to incorporate a new site plan, which has an 8,000 square foot building. Here's the access point that comes into the site and will cross over. This will not be a separate parcel line. This is the parcel boundary here, providing access to the 8,000 square foot building. One of the things too, in the previous request, there was a condition of approval provided that the board established for this property, and it was to use gravel in lieu of pavement where possible, outside of handicap accessibility and access here off the main road. So the applicant is respectfully requesting that condition to be lifted. And in the staff report at the bottom of page 1, it provides the justification for that ask. So this approval would allow the reallocation of this watershed acreage back to this site. This one here still complies with the standards of the 70%. So this is a transition to that acreage here, and request to remove that condition. Any questions of the board? In terms of our watershed breakdown too, it's on page 2 of the staff report. For Cottle Creek, we're at 13.4% of the 100%. If you look at it the other way, we're at 0.013 of our 10%. Almost 61 acres removed out of 1,194 possible.
So the request is twofold. to add an additional 1.3 acres for the 8,000 square foot warehouse and to remove the request about asphalt surfacing for the following reasons. So it's just twofold.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Shane?
And Mr. Bost is here too. If there's any questions, represent the applicant.
All right. Any questions for Shane or for Mr. Boss? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
What's your motion?
To remove the requirement for the gravel and to approve the 1.3 acres.
All right. We have a second?
My second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Let's see. We need y'all can stick around for a little while longer if you want. No. Well, no, that's just a little offensive. Do we need a 3-minute break?
Yep.
All right.
Movie break.
Need to move. Time is 8:46. Let's be back at 8:55. All right, we're back and we'll go ahead and begin our discussion on finalizing the budget. And so typically there might be some things that commissioners want to talk about. And so we'll begin down here with Commissioner Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After looking at the budget real hard, it's going to be a tough year coming up, and I'm hoping that we can maintain what we have and not have to do any layoffs. And we can only hope that this inflation cycle slows down some so that what dollars we do have will still buy something. But I think Aaron's done a good job on the budget. I think he's been fair in an environment that's not fair. And the only appropriation that I'd like to change would be Meals on Wheels allocation from 72 to 125,000. I think they do an excellent job. They service a lot of people that can't get, out to shop or to get food. They also do a welfare check on everybody every day to make sure that they haven't fallen or they haven't had some health issues to keep them from being able to get out. And I think that's important. And Cindy educated me that they are now working on a new meal program that specializes on people that have dietary issues such as no sugar, no salt, these kind of things, which has not been something they've had in the past. So they're not standing still on their laurels. They're moving forward. And I think we owe that to our citizens to make sure those people are taken care of, because 97,000 meals is a lot of meals in a year's time. So that little bit of money won't help a bunch, but it might help offset some of this inflationary costs that you're going through. So that's the only thing I'm asking for that's not already in the budget.
All right. Jim, anything for you?
No, I'm going to go ahead and let Commissioner Klusman start.
Okay. The two positions that Attorney Smith talked about as the chair of DSS, the attorney one, and also the social worker supervisor. Yeah. I think he has made a good case, and I apologize that I didn't get this in to begin with, but just going back to the attorney one position. I talked with Robert, what's Robert's last name? Mr. Lester. Yes, Mr. Lester, who was here tonight, sitting in the back, and very quiet man. He reminded me that we take in through the attorneys, I want to say clawback, but that's not exactly the right word. But we bring back monies that are owed to the taxpayers in the amount of $10 million a year. That's not chump change. In Rowan County. And we have currently 5,500 cases. So this is why we need attorney one. And Mr. Smith did a much better job of explaining the social work supervisor position than I can. So
What are those two numbers?
The social work supervisor is 71,538. 26,000 is county money, but we have to budget the whole amount. The attorney one is 132,938. We have to budget that whole amount, but the actual county expenditure is 65,000. Yeah.
Mike?
We gotta add that. Okay, well, apparently, I guess just in the, I didn't know this, but, we had already agreed on the 2% for veterans. Apparently that was typo, so I've got to add that. We got to add that. That'd be 45,000. And then in the statement, I have to read the statement or make a motion or what?
How many, 38?
45.
38 or 45? For 2%?
45,000, yes.
Yeah.
So the statement that goes with this says any full-time, part-time, or part-time benefit employee who served or currently serving in a branch of the U.S. military and was discharged under conditions other than dishonorable shall receive 2% supplement to their base pay. U.S. military branches include the Army, Army Reserves, Army National Guard, Navy, Navy Reserves, Marine Corps, Marine Corps Reserves, Air Force, Air Force Reserves, Air National Guard, Coast Guard Reserves, and Space Force.
Space Force. Explain that out. It's a good idea. And
and we talked about it before, but basically we looked at the board looked at some folks decided to go to college when they get out of school. Some folks go to the military,
and we're giving college graduates.
We're giving college graduates 2%. And so we thought it would be the right thing to do to also give those that serve in the military 2%. So it's sort of a benefit they've earned, and so I think that was our logic behind that. All right. So what I had was so the first thing, I don't even know if it's going to cost anything other maybe just a phone call. But Jim, you remember you and I went out to that dinner at Sloan Park, and it was pitch black, and we were walking around. They had the little generator out there making the light for us.
Yes, sir.
And so I think we need to get some lights out there. Now, I know the building, the farm people own the building, I think, but the parking lot and everything else is county. So I don't know. Maybe just Duke Power lights would probably work out there, maybe. I'm not sure. But I wanted to bring that up because I've been thinking about it all year since we were there last.
So, you were scared.
It was dark. But Jim was there and he held my hand and we got through it.
Yeah, that's good.
So really, if the county just looks at that, I don't even know. Like I said, I don't know if there'll be cost to that. The second thing that I wanted to look at, this has come to us a couple years in a row, and I don't know if you want to do this here or you want to do it through the personnel committee. But I talked to the sheriff last week, and there is a position in the jail. I think the jail is going to be down to 23 people soon. And there's a position there that they've been trying to upgrade from sergeant to lieutenant, and the cost to the county, or additional cost is $5,630. So I mean, we can do that now if everyone's fine with it, or we can send it to the personnel committee.
We need to do some job retention.
$5,630.
Yeah, that's wild.
Okay.
And then the third thing I want to look at was, we passed that resolution today for the Veterans Court. And so we put a half position in, I think last year for Justin. Well, because you've been to a lot of the veterans lunches, there's been some change to some of the Blue Water Navy benefits, people that were in Vietnam, but in Navy ships that were exposed to Agent Orange, but they didn't actually go to land. Well, they changed the ruling now where you can get benefits from exposure to it. And so they've had uptick in that. They've also had some changes in the appeals process. Is a little more intense for them. And so I think they're getting a little bit behind, but then if we add in the veteran service or add in the courts, they're going to have to do some things with that. So I really just wanted to talk about upgrading that 1.5 time position to a full-time position. And I talked to him, he said, if we waited till October 1st, that would be fine. And then, so that would be roughly $27,000 to do that upgrade. And then the last thing, I don't know, I wanted to at least want to talk about it is we've had, and I think everyone got the email, Alan had sent out his priorities, emergency services. And I know some of us were up there during telecommunicator week. We saw kind of how busy they are. And they've asked for some more positions to help with that. The issue is you have to do them in pairs. He asked for 8. I'm not asking for 8 today. I'm just kind of discussing this with you guys, what you think. I mean, I would like to, at the minimum, maybe get him. I asked him if 2 would help him, and he said if he got 2, he could do mid shifts with that. If he got 4, then he could put 1 on each shift. Or we may want to wait till next year, but I wanted to at least bring it up to discuss it. I think that's been in there at least just the 3rd year, maybe, at least the 2nd year, I think. Been there 5 years. Oh, it has. So I think, like I said, we could do 2 maybe. They're $50,424 per position. So we $50,424. And even we waited till January, it would just be half that. At least maybe at least get 2 in there for them.
101,000.
What's that?
I was telling Greg.
Yeah, it's about 100,000.
No, I said it's 101,000 for 2 positions.
Right. And I said if we wanted to wait till January, at least get it'll be half of that. But whatever the board thinks, like I said, I'd at least like work on that because it's such a large number. Whenever we get around to doing it, we're going to have to eat all 8 positions at once. So, they say eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Hope they made out of marshmallow. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the manager a question.
Yes, sir.
Aaron, in the past, we've had an early retirement program that we did, and it might have even been before you became county manager. But what the intention behind it is we were having employees that had been with us a long, long time, but yet they still weren't eligible for retirement because they hadn't turned 55. And we ran the numbers on it, and based on what we would hire somebody to replace them for that position, it was actually cheaper for us to let them go ahead and retire and pay their insurance till they were eligible to draw Social Security away. It was actually cheaper because of the reduction in their salary versus the retirement. Can we take another look at that? Because we've got a lot of people that's in that category again. We took care of it one time and it worked great.
But we haven't addressed it in some period of time. And I did look at some of the records on some of the employees, and there's a lot of them, they have the years of service, they just don't have the age. So I'd like to at least explore that to see if we couldn't, let these people move on and get some new help in here.
Okay.
So if you would, I'd appreciate that.
All right.
If the board's okay with it, I mean.
Yeah. All right.
About 29 more months. I'm out of here. Social Security.
Anything else? Jim and Aaron, I come up with 435, 954. Four 35, 954.
Yeah, he said you bring out more land. It's amazing how many people use that place. Look, I want to look at something. I left mine like I did the last. I just asked Aaron. If he reads his way. I can't believe he remembers all this. Read through the whole thing, but I never did find. Part out of the budget. Says they're not in. I think it's a park system. Yeah, but they're not in our park system.
Jim, is that all going to be 101?
That line item, we added it. That's why I'm saying I don't. Not a county park. I'm gonna ask him. I think we have to vote to take it out. And the reason being is, like I told you, they got. Paul Moore.
No.
It ain't Addison.
Yeah.
He quit.
Did he?
Mhm.
With that board?
Yeah.
With the.
Quit the board.
He's one of the common.
Be a lower number than, wouldn't it?
Told him he's gonna cut him.
Yeah, he added all those numbers up.
Oh, you guys are making $4,000 a weekend out here when you're open. I said, why does the county? I said, and the survey showed that the majority of your clientele that's coming ain't from Rowan County. They're from Fighting and Cabarrus and all this other. They're water, you can raft, you can swim, you can cook out and do whatever you want to do. And told me, you know, whole reason that you were getting this application is because you didn't have a funding source. I said, now you do. $5 a car, it don't sound like much. I said, but your car, 400 cars a day, it's $2,000 a day you're making. I said, you've already hired a full-time park attendant and a part-time. I said, so the whole point is, you need to quit milking the cow.
So is the 435, 954, is that the number, or do you have a lower? Yes, I got 53 on Meals on Wheels. That's, all right. Yeah, so what's that exact number, 52? All right, that's where we're off. 204, 476. Right, for DSS. 204, 476.
Yes, sir.
45 for the 2%.
Yes, sir.
5630 for sergeant and lieutenant.
Yes.
7 for veterans court.
Yes.
108.48.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Ready to move? Don't need anything else?
No, it's a postage stamp to them.
Help reduce counseling from having to hold his head.
Things gonna happen.
Don't worry about them.
No, because it's the pot plus.
Requires no maintenance, don't it?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, so it's just
But you can't
contingency.
pay the sand on the damn bank.
No, we don't.
See, I don't know if you know.
650 minus.
Minus.
Commissioners, based on the changes you made, if it's agreeable to reduce the recommended contingency line item by 432,992, which will leave the contingency at 217,008. And if that's agreeable, and the board is interested in passing the budget as presented with these changes, and that's all you'd have to do. And then none of the numbers change in the book or in the budget ordinances.
Aaron, just a quick question. So for social services, we get reimbursed, what, 50 or 56% on? So does that come back into the revenue line then, or how does that work in the budget process?
It does, and Jim just asked me that, and so we don't have to change the bottom line numbers. We don't have to put it in the budget because it's a net positive to the county anyway.
Okay.
So, and our estimates may be high or low, so.
Okay.
Anyway.
Thank you.
All right. So budget Fund 101. Should I go through and itemize those amounts?
You want Jim to read them off, or?
I've got them.
Okay.
We're increasing the line item for Meals on Wheels by $50,038. We're increasing, adding attorney 1 and supervisor 2 at a total of $204,476. We're including 2% for veterans, $45,000. In the jail, sergeant and lieutenant is $5,630. Veterans court, $27,000. 2 communicators at $50,424 each, for a total of $432,992. That item 101 will be increased by. Do we have a motion to do that?
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Then the others remain untouched. So Fund 201, 202.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if you could go back to that, the last one, and say, if you could say that comes from the contingency.
Yeah, the 432,992, if I can change my motion, we would increase by 432,992, Fund 101, and that would come from contingency. So do we have a motion to do that? Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So then items 201, 202, 501, 601, 603, 605, 701, 702, and 703 would be passed as presented by
I got,
managers.
we've got to do 201 separate.
Yes, we do, don't we? That's the fire tax. Let's see who's here and who isn't. Looking at them, sticking their hands up. Looking at them, sticking their hands up. All right, that's Fund 201. Do we have a motion to approve 201?
I got, we got changes I got to go through because Aaron didn't put the tax increases in there. Yeah. So I'll make a motion to approve 201 as presented with the following changes. Gold Hill would go from 8% to 9% tax. Liberty will go from 5.37 to 8%. Union would go from 350 to 550. And then Woodleaf would go from 650 to 750.
What was the first one?
Gold Hill is from 8% to 9%.
That's the other way around. Supposed to cut it, wasn't it?
Is that East Gold Hill? East Gold Hill?
Yes, East Gold Hill.
8 to 9?
8 to 9.
Yeah, that was a whoops. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 changes. I've written those down. All right. Would you like to make a motion to approve the others with those changes?
Yes.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Remainders are 202, 501, 601, 603, 605, 701, 702, and 703. Is that right?
Sounded like.
That's right. All right. All right, do we have a motion to approve those funds?
So moved.
In a second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aaron, anything else on budget?
Do y'all want my presentation? I'm just picking. Did they say no?
That's a big no.
Chairman.
We can have a satellite meeting after this in your office if you like. Have we made every motion we need to on the budget? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Left is financial reports. Jim?
Good evening, commissioners. All right, we'll get started with the expenditures through May of fiscal year 2022. We're at $138 million, which is 5.5 million more than last year at the same time, which is a 4.1% increase. April, next slide, please. Year-to-date revenue. Through May, we're at 147.7 million, 1.5 more than last year at the same time, which is a 1.1% increase. April, next slide. Property taxes, we're at 88.7 million, which is roughly 1 million more than last year. Collection rates between the 2 years are almost identical at 97.1%. And then the last slide, sales tax, we're at 23.5 million through February, which is a $3.2 million increase over last year at the same time. That is it, unless there's any questions.
red flags other than what we're staring at this year?
Those are the big ones, yeah. Inflation and maybe recession.
Any comments that you want to?
No, sir.
Smart guy. All right, last thing is budget amendments were provided to us. We've had a chance to review those. Do we have a motion to
So
approve
moved.
those? In a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now I move that the board enter into closed session in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A2 in order to prevent the premature disclosure of an honorary action or recognition. As soon as we close the doors, we'll do this and be done in 2 minutes.
You're right.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor, say aye. Thank you.